Well, RT America was the first to break the news to you last night that an oil spill at the Keystone pipeline in South Dakota could be exponentially worse than initially reported. 400 barrels instead of just 5. But there's still a lot of questions among locals most affected about what actually spilled. And that's because the company owning the pipeline is not confirming the composition of the spill. Potentially worrisome when you find out which toxin this company produces. RT's Alexey Yaroshevsky tells us what exactly is in diluted bitamin.
TransCanada company, owner of Keystone Pipeline, first reported that 187 gallons of oil was spilled in South Dakota, or 4 barrels. Later, it updated the estimates to 16,800 gallons, or 400 barrels. Now, how much is that really? If we put it into context, that would be 1.5 large oil trucks, which usually carry oil around the country, or about a half of the regular DOT 111 train track, which are operating in North America. Even this picture would give you a better idea, 3% of a huge oil tankers which operate in the seas. And, you know, if you look at that, it doesn't seem scary, right? But the problem is that there's a hefty chance this was not conventional crude oil that spilled, and TransCanada's failure to confirm what was actually spilled adds fuel to the fire. The people who have been fighting the Keystone Pipeline for almost a decade have no doubts the product spilled in South Dakota was diluted bitumen, or dilbit. Those who are familiar with environmental disasters in the United States may have heard this term, and it made headlines in 2010 during the Kalamazoo River spill. Almost 900,000 gallons of bitumen leaked into the river then. It took 4 years and $1.2 billion for the Enbridge Energy company owning that pipeline to clear out the spill. Another $80 million were paid in fines and compensations. So what is dilbit? Conventional crude oil is a liquid that is pumped from underground depositories, then put onto tankers and pipelines, delivered to refineries, and then it becomes fuel. Bitumen is too thick to be pumped from the ground or through pipelines. It's a kind of crude oil found in sand deposits. So in order to make it to the refinery and then become fuel, it first has to be diluted. Now, there are several ways to dilute this peanut butter styled mass. Now, one of them is the conventional light crude. Another one is basically a cocktail of chemicals. Those dilutants are considered a trade secret, but it's widely believed that the mixture often includes benzene, a known human carcinogen. Only 17 drops of benzene are able to contaminate a 50,000-gallon water tower, according to Federal Agency on Toxic Substances. Now, try to count how much drops of benzene there may be in 16.8 thousand gallons, even if it's diluted. And you will understand why the locals in Dakotas are so much concerned. Now, add this to the fact that Alberta tar sands, where Keystone Pipeline originates from, is the 3rd largest petroleum reserve in the world, and that TransCanada officially deals with bitumen, as it says on its website, citing, however, that diluted bitumen is physically and chemically indistinguishable from other heavy crude oils. This notion is totally dismissed by TransCanada's former employee turned whistleblower, Evan Vokes, who told the Smog blog that dilbit has more benzene than crude and that it has far more dangerous implications for the environment than a regular oil spill. And this comes from the man who used to be on the inside. The South Dakota spill has not made it onto the screens of mainstream networks in the United States, but locals in South Dakota are now planning to protest on the side of the spill to make sure that they and their families have a future on their land. Alexey Yaroshevsky, RT, reporting from Washington, D.C.